Okay, hello ladies and gentlemen, Forrest over here, and welcome back to another live stream. Hold on, let me do something else real quick here. Tune in that. Go, bada bing, bada boom. So, as you can tell from the title, I'll be doing something completely unique, sort of, where I'll be telling random stories and watching random videos that are on my recommended for a little bit of time, because I'm in the mood of doing something else along with what I was doing earlier, which was reading this book that's titled Suicide Notes, which is a work of fiction, and it's an interesting read, if I'm being honest, because like you're delving into the mind of a person that is told they're dealing with something, but they don't believe anything's wrong with them. It's sort of like the movie Joker, where if you watch that movie, you'll know where I'm going with this. It's that movie where you have a character that has this really interesting mindset, and I call it interesting because throughout that movie, because of how it's all going down, you don't know what's real and what isn't in that movie. Even when even you just don't know what's real and what isn't in that movie, because you think everything happening to him right now is real, but some of them might seem a little too real, and some might be in his head. But this book is where where we're delving into the mindset of a young man who doesn't believe who doesn't believe there's anything wrong with him, and he just wants to get the hell out of the building that he's currently in. He really wants to get out of there. That's as far as I've gotten so far, and he is starting to talk with another one of the patients that are in that building with him, treating them like a friend. You know, it's a really nice story, if I do say so myself. But anyway, so we're watching random videos, and I'll be saying some random stories if anything pops into my head. So let's take a look at what we got here for this one. Entitled Teenagers Destroy My Car So I Arrest Them. God. I'm immediately thinking about the few times I've actually been nearly hit by a car. I know that there have been I could list off the number of times ever since I started working at my current workplace where a car almost has hit me. The very first time that ever happened, I will admit I was probably on the car's blind side because I was literally right next to the car. So they couldn't really see me unless they turned their head a whole 90 degrees, or as close to 90 degrees as they could get their head to turn that way. Um, excuse me. And, so yeah. So I was starting to walk, but if I was on my left, who was about to turn right, so I'm walking this way, car's turning right. And then it just stops, kind of honks its horn, and I was just backing up a little bit so it can move. And I went, well, okay. I kind of gave that one the benefit of that doubt because I was probably in their blind spot, which, okay, it can happen to anybody. Alright. Then you have the second time that it happened to me. I was on the same side of the road that I was with the first time, but the only difference was right here, right, this is me looking this way, and there's a car on the other side. So as I'm walking, the car it's about to make the turn, but all of a sudden it acts like it's just seeing me, so it stops there, and I'm just like, what? I was literally like, why are you driving? I'm literally on the other side of you. You should have easily have seen me if you were actually paying attention. Jesus. People be crazy sometimes, you know? The third time, I think I actually talked about this one on my channel, but it was the one, yeah, I did. Because it was one where I was just walking, and literally literally, I hear a car zoom past behind me like an inch. Maybe like a single foot. This car missed me by. If I would have waited literally 1 second beforehand, it probably would have hit me. But it didn't. I was that close though. Literally, that, like a literal fraction of a second close. That close to me. And I'm looking at where it was going because the wind was blowing past me going this way. I look and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? How could you do that? And the worst part, I even looked at the light, and the worst part was that light was on red. I even looked at the light where he was going toward, and I'm like, that light is red, and you're going through it. Well, apparently, I would have called the cops on him, and I'm like, I should have, because dude, that dude literally was that close to hitting me. So yeah, that was fun. Ironically enough, the fourth time a car almost hit me was in a similar way, but they were a bit more slower, and they didn't honk at me like the literal last one did. And I'm like, okay, whatever. It was close, but at least they weren't an asshole and honked at me about over it. So yeah, that was interesting. So with that said, let's watch our first Reddit story. It's been a while since I last did a Reddit story video reaction, so let's do it.
Teenagers intentionally start to destroy my car, all while I'm driving down the street. So I called the cops, pressed charges against these teenagers, and ended up getting all three of them put in jail. And at the end of the day, it's all entirely their own fault. Here's what happened. So this all starts out with a mutual friend by the name of Ben. He was driving himself down Johnson Road, and Johnson Road was one of those uncommon roads in suburbia that was kind of narrow. As he was driving, there were these three teenagers, ranging from 16 to 19 years old, walking shoulder to shoulder along the road with their backs to his car. Not trying to hit them, Ben moved to the far left side to avoid them and give them enough space so that he could pass. But as it turns out, it was all a ruse by those three kids to get cars to pass along them, just as Ben had just done. When he passed by them, they took out baseball bats they were hiding and started smashing his car as he passed. They took out his side mirror and caused some minor damage. Well, Ben wasn't too happy, so he pulled over and got out of his car to address this issue, which was not too smart since it's already 3-1.
Yeah.
You'll understand in a minute why he felt so confident. The three kids see him and they realize their advantage, so they start charging at him with their bats raised in the air. But this is where things get really good. Ben pulls something out that immediately makes them freeze, and it's something that he had just in case for self-defense, if you know what I mean.
Weapon.
It turns out Ben is a retired Marine.
Oh!
If you know what I mean. The three kids freak out and...
Yeah, so basically, in case you don't know what that means, Ben, being a retired veteran, has a weapon on him that he is allowed to conceal carry. And so when he pulls it out, because he is technically defending his property, because it did damage his car, they are now, as he's about to say, their whole game plan takes a whole 180. Because instead of dealing like a hapless victim, they're now dealing with a man who has a weapon that could take out any three of them, if not all three of them, if he really wanted to. He does have a right to self-defense because they did destroy his car. They did attack his car with their baseball bats. And so they have weapons on them. So he has a weapon on him that he could technically use in self-defense. So yeah.
in their tracks, their arms raised up. Ben directs them to get on their knees, lay face down, and keep their arms and legs spread out. Now, this was back in 2000 when cell phones were not as common, but Ben happened to have one. He then immediately called the cops on the kids right then and there. He said on the phone, "My name is Ben, I'm on Johnson Road, and 3 teenagers just attacked my car and even threatened to attack me. I am carrying personal protection with a permit, and I have them on the ground and subdued. I need an officer to come by here as I am going to press charges, and I want them arrested." When the officer...
You know, this reminded me of this one father. It was on Inside Edition. There was a story about a father who beat up this dude who was doing something to his 10-year-old son. And it set the father off so badly that the father just went and beat the hell out of this guy. We're talking about a man who had a black eye. His lip was all bruised and swollen. His bottom lip was swollen in itself, but it wasn't as bad as the upper lip. And the dad even called after he beat the guy up, the dad called the cops on the guy and basically told him, "Yeah, I got this guy in a bloody pool for you, officer." Literally his words. Because they played the 911 call, and I remember some of his words. And so the cops arrive, and they arrest him, charged him with what he did, and he went to jail. And they even got his mugshot, which no prisoner would ever want taken of them. With this man getting beaten up as badly as he was. And the cops came out and said, "Now, well, we didn't charge this guy. We're not going to charge the dad because the dad was defending his child from this other dude. But this other dude's going to get what's coming to him." And I'm like, hell yeah, brother. When a father is defending his son from a fucking piece of shit like that, you're a damn good father in that regard. Regardless of how you treat your son, you are basically telling your son, I care about you enough that I will protect you to the very end. And that's some good fathership.
I am the one with the protection device, and I will follow his instructions. After hearing this, the kids start begging for him to let them go, cursing each other, all while giving sob stories in the process. But Ben's not listening. The cop arrives and orders Ben to put down his protection device, which he does immediately. This is when things get even better from here, as it turns out that the cop is a retired Marine as well. The police officer hears his statement, sees the evidence, and then they have this exchange. The cop looks at Ben and says, "So they came right at you and you didn't try and defend yourself?" And that's when Ben responded by saying, "No, they listened to my command, so I didn't need to defend myself." And the cop looks stunned when Ben said that. The cop then looks at the 3 kids and says, "You're lucky you got him and not me. I absolutely would have defended myself against you 3 if I saw you 3 coming at me with baseball bats. If this guy had done that, all of you would no longer be alive." So eventually, after having a discussion back and forth, the 3 kids get arrested. And the cop tells the 2 youngest kids that they are probably going to ruin their lives if they keep this up. He tells the 19-year-old that he's over 18 years old and that he is already an adult, so it's too late for him. He's absolutely going to jail. But it gets even better from here. They all end up in court, and as it turns out, the judge's son is currently in the Marines. He then tells the other 2 kids that they're going to be tried as adults as well. And eventually, all 3 of them go to jail for the maximum sentence that our state allows for this crime. And honestly, with all things considered, these 3 punks absolutely had it coming. What a terrifying story. I can't imagine driving on the side of the road, trying to go...
Yeah, I will say for the record, it's always the teenagers that think they're being so cool that they do something like, "Oh, let's go and smash people's cars with our baseball bat." How are we going to do that? We're going to stand arm in arm in a line, and we're going to have them move past us. And then we're going to pull our bats out, and we're going to beat the crap out of their car. That's a genius idea. The only thing that they seem to forget is that, number one, you don't know who you're dealing with when you do stupid things like that, or doing something like Ding Dong Ditch. You don't know who you're dealing... When you're doing this type of thing, when you're a teenager and you pull pranks on random people that you don't know, What you don't realize is you literally don't know who you're dealing with. You just think you're being funny by doing this, and you think, oh, they'll probably find it as a joke. No, they will not think of it as a joke. They will take it seriously because they don't know you. So if you're gonna pull pranks on anybody, do it to people you know. Otherwise, don't fucking do it. Okay? And I'm saying that to everybody. It don't matter how old you are. Don't pull pranks on anybody you do not know personally. Even those that you know secondhand but you don't personally know, don't do it to them either. Because you don't know how they're gonna react. It's so simple. Let's go to the second story here. That's a life lesson for everybody.
My entitled parents and brother come to me once again requesting that I give them money so that my brother can finally get an apartment of his own. And it is incredibly exhausting dealing with my entitled family once again after I made it very clear that I don't want them in my life. Here's what happened. So this story is an update to a previous story that we covered on the channel, where a man has been dealing with his parents and his entitled brother by the name of Dan and their ridiculous demands for his house as well as
These guys. Oh, I know this story. Oh my god, I hate those people. For a little bit of context, this story is basically about how a family has basically been trying to get OP to do things to do some things for Dan. Oh my god, this family is just fucking stupid. Not OP. OP is cool, but the family is just. How do these entitled people function? Do they literally what? Did they wake up with a silver spoon in their mouth and instantly was like, yeah, we're gonna get exactly what we want. And how are we gonna do that? We're just gonna demand it and expect people to give it to us. Um That's not how the real world works, folks. If you want something, you gotta earn it. The real world will always teach you that lesson. And if you want to earn it, you gotta work for it. And in order for you to work for it, you gotta get a job. In order for you to get a job, you gotta have some credentials. Sometimes you have to have like a college degree or something. But if you, but you could also get a high school diploma, and that would still be enough for you to get jobs somewhere, particularly cashier, like a cashier's job or some job at a fast food chain. I don't know about GameStop, but yeah, personally, I've seen GameStop work. You know, honestly, even if it was just for a little bit, I would not. I would like to work at GameStop, even though I've heard stories in such of that place, how it's okay to could be better to. It's just downright terrible. I would like to go there just for the sake of trying, just for the sake of yeah. Hey man, if you're looking for a video to look up, you can watch when you have a room. I'll look that up after I'm done watching this video, because this video I'm starting to watch this video first. But yeah, anyway, I honestly want to. I also want to go. I would also like to work at GameStop around the time Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out, because I would love to hear. I would love to be involved in a story where a kid like this, like a random little kid comes up, tries to get GTA 6, and I'd be like, young man, I've spent many years of my life playing Grand Theft Auto. You understand you need a parent to consent to you getting this, right? I'm gonna watch this video. I'm gonna watch a particular video after I watch Amazing Fans video of what he recommended, because to me it is the funniest story ever. One of the funniest GTA fan, GTA game, GameStop GTA stories I've ever heard. We'll watch that after I'm done watching the one that Fan wants me to watch, which I'll watch after I'm done watching this. But anyway, let's hear what this damn story is about this One in Town family that I've heard like 3, now to be 4 stories about in this series.
Here's what he had to say. So this will not surprise some people who commented on my previous posts, because my parents did some of the exact things they said they would, which was wanting either money or my signature. I did expect the classic line of narcissist saying that I owed them some.
It just not. Hey, at least you told me what I can call you, so I'll call you David. Funnily enough, I actually have a friend named David from my personal life. He originally lived here, but then he moved out of state. Because it's been some time since I last... I think it was in Michigan. I think. And I know, people in Ohio don't like it when you talk about Michigan, especially when it's during the football season. And it happens to be the month, that month where it's the game between the Ohio State Buckeyes and the Michigan Wolverines. Because I remember this one time. I used to work at this place called Harry and David, which is another place that is very easy to get to. Even with a very bad criminal record, they will hire anybody there. So, yeah, take that how you will. But anyway, I was wearing a shirt that I also got for my father, and I got one for myself. And the shirt basically said, "This is Dick," with a picture of a man's face on it. Dick is a Michigan fan in a flag. Don't be a dick. Okay? Now, remember, like I said, I'm in Ohio, and for the most part, people tend to be Ohio State fans more than Michigan fans, if they're fans of the two. I have seen fans of Ohio State. I have seen my share of Michigan fans. I've seen my share of the Cincinnati college football team fans. I've seen them all. I've seen a good number of them. But anyway, um, when I was wearing this shirt at work one day, because it's kind of it doesn't have too much of a tolerance policy on shirts, just kind of like the usual stuff you'd expect for workplaces to tell you not to wear, but it's a bit more laid back, so to speak. But anyway, so this person that I was working next to, she was an older lady. She kept giving me this look of, I guess, like the side eye look of disgust or something. And because I keep looking toward her direction, and she kept looking at my shirt. And I'm like, is there, do you have a problem with my shirt? Because I could tell she's looking at my shirt. And she's like, "Your shirt has Michigan on it." And I'm like, "Okay, and I don't like shirts that say Michigan. I only call them Michigan during the month when we are set to face them." And I'm like, and in my head, I'm like, "Well, you can call it whatever you want. I'm just happen to wear a shirt that says Michigan instead of Michigan or the team up north or whatever. I'm just wearing this shirt, okay? Because I am supporting a team that has a rivalry with the team up north. Now, to anybody that is a Michigan fan, personally, that shirt was meant as a joke because my dad went to OSU. So, of course, he's going to not really care for the team up north. But he has told me on record one time, I asked him, what's the one team you hate the most? And he, not skipping a beat, Notre Dame. Why? Because I don't like the Fighting Irish. Not really a reason, but okay then.
Or give me some kind of BS where I need to share the wealth. But that was just my imagination running wild. The ensuing situation was somewhat similar to that, but much more tame, I guess you would say. They seemed to know not to push me too far, and were mostly aiming for pity. It began when my parents recently got in touch with me through social media and asked for a meeting in a public place of my choosing. And when I read this message, it screamed to me that this was a trap. But honestly, I wasn't afraid. In fact, I was amused. They know now I'm not someone to be messed with anymore, so I could only wonder what they wanted this time. I picked a popular Italian restaurant that I'm sure you could probably figure out, and we met up there. Dan was also with him, but he kept his mouth shut most of the time. We had an awkward greeting, ordered some drinks, and then cut to the chase. My parents begged me to help Dan get his own apartment so he can finally move out. Apparently, Dan's credit isn't so great, and it really makes me think, gee, I wonder why. Could it be his entitled wife regularly spending his money into a hole? Well, they asked that I
Yeah, probably.
by either supplying some capital or by co-signing for the apartment and helping to pay the rent for it. And when I heard
Oh, that last bit. Hell no. Nope. I would have noped out of that immediately. As soon as they say you're paying for rent, and yet he's supposed to be living in that house, he's living in it, he's paying for it. I want nothing to do with that. I don't mind co-signing it. Probably some people wouldn't mind doing that. But if if I'm the one paying for a house because someone else is living in it, and you're gonna say I should do that? Oh hell no! Get out of here! Get the heck out of here! I would have left immediately. I would have stood right up immediately and said, "Yeah, how about, how about, uh, how about screw you, fuck you, bye." And I would have left right then. They would not let me. I would not be doing that. Hell no. No.
simply said no to both options.
Absolutely
and once I did
not.
that's when Dan spoke up in anger and yelled at me that I have so much money and that
Oh, here they go again with the fucking money. What is it with entitled people and money? Like, seriously. They always say, well, you've got so much money that you don't need this thing. It's just like, yeah, I do have a lot of money. But guess what? I may actually be saving that money for something. I mean, dude, there is actually one of my younger relatives. I won't say who because they're pretty young. They have told every time when we try this one person in my family that I am related to um because of my sibling. I remember this one family member would say, they just openly said, I'm saving my money for a house. And to my, you, dude, let me just state I remember, it's really funny. The other night, as a matter of fact, I was with my family. I was with my mom, my dad, my niece, and my nephew. And I was looking at this steering wheel that is now on my throne currently. And I was talking about it, and my dad's like, well, niece, I'm not saying her real name for obvious reasons, niece has some money, why don't you ask her? And she overheard my dad saying this, and she's like, what do you want? And I was like, would you mind getting me this? She's like, how much is it? And I said, well, how about we split it? If you pay for some of this and I pay the rest, I will pay you back the amount that you let me borrow. Nope. She instantly noped that. Oh my god. I'm like, this little girl who is not at the age you would think she would be thinking about saving her money. She she was thinking about the money that she had, and she just like, nope, instantly. It was really, that's one of the funniest aspects of my niece, is that she does not like spending too much of her money. You would be lucky if she says yes to you on that. It's so fucking hilarious, man. Meanwhile, my nephew, who is a few years older than her, he will get this money and he will just spend it instantly. And it's like, it's weird how the older sibling is spending his money as soon as he gets it, but the younger sibling is saving up her money for something that she will not be able to get for, I would say right now, 10, 15 years. 15 years definitely for the most. But I say 10 years because you never know what she might be thinking, you know? But yeah, that moment just made me laugh so hard when she did that. I was like, oh my god.
A family to support like he does. He needed my help, and I apparently should be sparing the money for his family since I don't have one myself. And at that point, I just started laughing. I
Yeah.
asked where they were when I needed their help. Oh, that's right. They were pointing and laughing at me for being homeless. Or should we
Oh
maybe go
yeah.
further back into my childhood? I would love.
Oh yeah. True story. That they did deal with that on their first or second story post about their family. That is what they said about it.
Into that with plenty of ears to listen in all around us. My mother grabbed my hand and begged me not to speak of any of it. My father and Dan both just looked away and said nothing. And I'm pretty sure that they wanted to say something to me like they usually would, but they begrudgingly held their tongues instead. I asked them if they thought I was rich or something, and the way they looked at me said it all. And when I told them I don't have that kind of money, they looked at me like a deer in the headlights. I broke it down about how much I've managed to save for the down payment on my house, and the way I had to live and work to save up that much money so fast. I then explained how I nearly spent all my money on the down payment of my house. I'm still financially recovering. I did have monthly income to spare, yes, but most of it was going right into my savings. I asked Dan what his yearly salary was, and when he told me, I pointed out that it was actually a bit higher than mine. I then loosely broke down in rough math in front of my parents on how about 70% of my income goes into my mortgage, as well as my insurance, gasoline, internet, phone, food, and other bills. And then maybe if I'm lucky, there's about 30% of that left at most that I can put into my savings. And I need that money saved up to get back on my feet in time. And I need to make sure that I have savings to fall back on just in case. For example, my truck is from the 90s. If it were to break down, I would need money to either fix it or replace it. And there's other things one would need for a rainy day fund, like home repairs, doctors, taxes, lawyers, or anything in general you'd need quick cash for when it's a sudden, unexpected expense. So, as you can see, I just can't spare any money for Dan. I also refuse to co-sign for anything, as that would leave me on the hook for any bill Dan couldn't or wouldn't pay for. And that's when I point.
And how much you want to bet he wouldn't pay for any of them?
Them that this is probably why my parents didn't co-sign for Dan's apartment themselves long ago, and my mother just once again started crying. I was pretty much one step ahead of them in all of this. I'm not an ATM, and I'm not a fool, and I stated that right to their faces. I expected my father to become angry with me like he always does, but this time he just, well, he didn't. I've known this man to explode on me for the slightest provocation of not enabling my brother all of my life, but this time he just didn't do that. There wasn't even a sneer on his face. The only way I could describe the look on his face was that of regret and defeat. Maybe regret for being a terrible parent, or maybe regret because he can't bully me around anymore. Honestly, who knows? Either way, my parents couldn't really argue with me, and I wasn't about to give them any money. Dan just got up and said this was all just a waste of their time, and that he was leaving. My mother started apologizing for him, but Dan still wanted to leave. Then, just to destroy him with kindness, I offered to buy them a round of unlimited soup and salad while we were all there. Now, I guess they couldn't turn down free food since we hadn't ordered anything but drinks yet, and with that, they decided to stay. I went out of my way to talk about anything other than money. Dan remained quiet the entire time and was either eating his food or looking at his phone, but my parents just awkwardly talked with me. They brought up that they've recently joined a local Christian church and that they already have been going for about 2 weeks now. I said to them, good for you, and they of course started to advertise that they would like me to go as well.
Why is it like, so basically they're kind of forcing it pawn you, sort of, I guess. I don't know. But I will say, I support all, even if they don't agree with my personal beliefs, I do respect all religions, but they better not force it upon me or I'm going to be a bit irritated.
Said no thanks, and that they were smart enough to not try and push me further. When the meal was finished, Dan left $10 on the table for the tip and walked off without saying another word to me or anyone else. My mother just excused his behavior, and we all parted ways. And that was about it. Not nearly as much drama as I thought there would be, but this is still far better than how things used to be with my parents and brother. Now, as for my sister-in-law, well, she's been regularly complaining about my parents online. She really doesn't seem to like the fact that she's not queen bee of their house. And I think her toxicity is finally getting to them. Why else would they be so desperate to come crawling back to me for money? My sister-in-law actually wants my parents to move into a camper like I had to do in order to make space in the house for her. And they have told her no every time. She does seem to have a following of Karen-minded people like her though, because here and there I get messaged by someone I don't know that are intent on raging at me for not giving up my house for my sister-in-law, but I don't bother to argue with these people anymore.
Right.
I just block them and move on.
Yep.
Though there was one persistent troll who had my phone number of all things, and they call from different numbers every time. Yes, it seems to be the same person who called me to say to me that I need to make way for a real family man like Dan, but I honestly could care less. The calls, though, seem to have slowed down for the most part, if not stopped entirely, thankfully, because I made it clear to that person that they were only amusing me by keeping this up for so long.
Right.
The last time they called was around the beginning of the month, and it's been silence from them ever since then. The original poster of this story certainly has a very interesting situation with their parents.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to say about that, but personally, I don't know. It's just a messed up situation that's been going on from the very first story that they said. It's just like, oh my god, these people are just crazy. Dumb as a bag of rocks. Maybe even dumber, and that's saying something. Because rocks don't have brains. Yeah, these people are just crazy. Moving on to the next story from this video.
My entitled grandmother treats me like...
So after this video, after this story, we'll be watching what David, aka Amazing Fan, for those wondering who I'm talking about, we'll watch his video after this.
Consistently, especially after I've done so much for her and tried so hard to earn my keep while I live with her for such a limited time. And I'm now so glad to be away from her, and I still can't believe the way she treated me. Here's what happened. So this happened in the space of a couple of months in 2020, right as COVID started getting bad where my family lived. I honestly just want to get this off my chest because it's been weighing on me for such a long time. So at the time I was 21 years old, and I had to move back home from another state on very short notice due to a driver's license issue since I couldn't get it reissued without physically going into the DMV of my home state. I had also just gotten fired from my job, so I needed to get everything taken care of as soon as possible. My grandparents generously agreed to let me come stay with them, and my grandfather even drove round trip to Michigan and back to pick me up and tow my car since I couldn't even drive. I fixed my license problem and started job hunting while they were letting me stay there, and I helped out around the property to earn my keep, since at the time I couldn't pay them. They had a lot of animals that I fed and cleaned up after. I also mowed for them and moved mulch and planted trees. And neither of them could really drive, so I would chauffeur them around to take them to appointments, pick up medicine, go grocery shopping, as well as a litany of other chores. I was also friendly with a couple of their neighbors who let me do some work on the side for a bit of cash to get me by. One of my grandmother's dogs and one of her cats ended up having puppies and kittens, and she let me take one of them. I love those little guys. I took care of them in addition to all the other animals. To keep a long story short, I broke my back for them to pay them back for getting me out of a bad situation, as well as giving me a place to stay. But living there wasn't easy to begin with. My grandfather suffered from Parkinson's and had more or less given up on trying to take care of himself and constantly asked people for help, including guests that would come over. All the while, my grandmother was verbally horrible to him, was manipulative to everyone around her, and constantly goaded me and others into conversations about religion, politics, and every other controversial topic under the sun that would
You know, I honestly was immediately thinking back to what Linus would say in the Halloween special. There are three things I learned never to discuss with people: religion, politics, and the Great Pumpkin. Because, dude, let me tell you, you're talking about two of those three things are very touchy subjects. Religion. Do you not know how many religions there are and how many of them can be offended over something? Like, you could say something to a religious person, and there's a possibility that what you're talking about could offend them. Like, you could say, like, oh, the LGBTQ plus group of people aren't as bad as people make them out to be. And you're gonna have a group of religious people instantly be like, they're sinners. Why? Because they're not strict. God made all people straight. And I'm like, I even had this thought to myself earlier. I'm thinking like, well, when I was going to church for a little bit when I was a kid, because I had a neighbor that was religious and my family knew them very well, I remember going to this one church and this woman was basically just saying that God loves all people. She wasn't specific. She didn't say God loves all white people. She didn't say God loves all straight people. She didn't say God loves, all American people. She did not. She just said that God loves all people. God created all people. And so every time I see that, that's the first thing in my head. How could you say God? How could you say God loves all people, God creates all people, but yet you got a different group, the same people in the same religious group that say that being lesbian, being gay, being bisexual, trans, in that group of people is a sin. So I basically narrowed it down to just simply that people are just against that group of people because of their personal reasoning. And the only reason why they're saying God hates them, yeah. Although you meant to say except, not EXCEPT, not ACCEPT. But yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, the Bible does say love thy neighbor. God didn't, like I said, God was, I was told that God loved all people. So there's that. And yeah, God does say love thy neighbor. Boy, dude, let me tell you, I have like two different versions of the Bible. I have a a large print edition of the New Testament, plus another version of the New Testament that a coworker of mine who was a religious person but didn't force it upon me. I didn't feel like they did. Even when they bought me the second copy of the Bible, I still didn't think they were forcing their religion upon me. I took it like a Christmas gift because that's what it was, a Christmas gift. But anyway, so I'm thinking like the reason why they do this is basically because they have a personal hatred for not religious. They have the religious people that do that, when they say that to be not straight is a sin. I personally believe the only reason why people say that is because they have a personal hatred for that group of people, and they're only using God as an excuse to explain why they hate them, why they're hated. Yeah, I said that. They are using, as George Carlin once said, they are using the God excuse to explain away every single thing that they don't like. You don't like abortions? Well, God says it's a sin to have abortions. But yet, God has created women who will have, who will, not all women, but He has created some women who will have at least one abortion in her life. Not all women, but some women will go through that, regardless of the reason why. But God loves all people, but it's a sin to have abortions. And this makes me think of this one scene in Law and Order where this guy even says, where he says, he says he was against abortion because because he initially even says, at first he says, he was asked, does the Bible specifically condemn abortion? No. No? Well, were you reading God's mind? But then later he would backtrack on that, and when he was asked, does the Bible specifically condemn murder? Yes, thou shalt not kill. That's why I oppose abortion. But what people like that don't know is that abortion is mainly used to protect the well-being of the mother. And it's again another thing, and with all these states doing this thing, all these states doing this bullshit of doing abortion bans or doing it to where a woman could have an abortion, but they restrict it in such a way that you might as well just go to another state and have it. Like, go to another state and try to deal with it there. Like, that whole situation has it to where if what was what was happening to my mother when I was being born, basically what the state was saying, if we were in a state that basically made it to where a woman couldn't have abortion even if it was meant to save her life, basically states making the choice for her, I would have been born and my mother would have died. Because yes, my mother was going through that. She had preeclampsia, which meant that she had really high blood pressure. And it was so bad that it almost came down to my father choosing whether to save my mother or me. But my parents had that discussion beforehand. And my dad was telling me nothing against this. I have nothing against you, but I would have picked her over you. And the reason was because at that point in time, they already had a 3-year-old, soon to be 4-year-old daughter. Now tell me, would a dad be able to teach his daughter about the anatomy of a woman? He could easily teach me the anatomies of a man, but he would never be able to teach his daughter the anatomy of a woman, just like a mother could never teach her son the anatomy of a man, because a man doesn't know much about the woman's anatomy, like a woman doesn't know the anatomy of a man. We can always be taught about it, but we will never fully understand it. That's why if I'm going to teach my kids something, it's going to be how the anatomy of a man works. Because I'm a man. I will leave the anatomy of a woman to my woman. To the person that I'm eventually that I may in the future have a child with in the event I'm with somebody. I'm going to leave that to them. Because obvious reasons. And now I'm going to be thinking of the song Same Love by Macklemore that I have on my playlist, and it's such a good song. See, to a crowd of people who were about to stone a woman who had committed adultery, Jesus said, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. Yeah, I don't know how to respond to that, but yeah, I'm not a religious person, so yeah, I haven't read the Bible that much. My dad knows about it more than I ever will right now. But I do, but just like with all the books that are behind me and over here, no, and over here and up here, I do intend to read that book. I do intend to read the Bible. But here's the thing about the Bible. If you notice, that Bible has been revised so many times that, in my opinion, it wasn't made to retell the story of Jesus anymore. It's nowadays made to appease a certain, the Christian group that with the current beliefs that they have. It's not about what God believes. It's not about what happened. Like, it doesn't matter like what these stories say anymore. It's about, I want my personal beliefs to be written in a story so we can say this is what God believes, even though in reality this is what I believe, and God more than likely doesn't believe a fucking thing that I believe. But I'm still going to say God believed in it. Yeah, we're kind of delving into controversial stuff. I think we should stop now. Let's move on.
Turn into arguments because she's just obsessed with being right and she.
Oh, dude, you'd be amazed at how many times I've had an argument with people on the internet because they didn't like what I was saying about someone, Trump, or something. And I say Trump in that cough specifically because, dude, trust me, I personally like if you support Trump, fine, whatever. But I have seen people who love Trump to the point of like it feels like they love him religiously. Like you could say something truthful about him and they wouldn't believe you because of the fact that they just want to believe what they want to believe, and what they want to believe is whatever he says. Even if it's full of crap, he can say anything and his supporters will instantly believe it. Not all of his supporters, because some people actually are not afraid to be educated on things. They'll still support him, but they won't. They have no problem being educated. Those people I can be happy with. But those that just want to follow him, who just want to blindly follow a man, whether it's Donald Trump or Joe Biden or literally anybody else, yeah, you got a problem. Yeah, you just got a problem if you're just blindly following somebody without wanting them to without them wanting to feel the responsibility of what they say or do. I know that's another touchy thing because that is delving into politics, but believe me, I've noticed there's one thing I noticed a pattern with Trump, and I'm going to talk about it right now. Have you noticed how every time we're on an election year, he keeps saying if the election's rigged, like the election's rigged unless I win it, or like he'll say it in a different manner. He'll say it in a similar manner, but he won't say it the exact same way. He said it in 2016, said it in 2020, and now he's saying it this year. And people just instantly believe it. And it's like, do you not know how an election works? Because you clearly don't. Because, like, especially with the election in 2016, that was one of those elections where people wonder what's the point of the Electoral College? Because I think that's twice where you had two different winners in the presidential election. You had one win the Electoral College, which is how that's determined to win the president, to be elected president. But you also have the popular vote, which so Trump won the Electoral College in 2016, and Clinton won the popular vote. And so every time something like that happens, everybody always asks, "What's the point of the?" It's like, what's the point of the Electoral College if you vote? And to me, that's a good question. Because God knows how many other countries resort to using only the popular vote to elect a person, yet we're the only country that does an electoral college. To me, it's kind of dumb. The worst part is, you would not be, if you try to get that through to Congress or the House of Representatives, you would not be able to get it passed. Because it's so ingrained in our minds about the Electoral College that people just think it will go into chaos if we were to try to remove that. And I'm like, not really, because then at least we could say, well, my guy lost, but at least the Electoral College didn't fuck shit up. You know? That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm thinking. I used to be a big Trump guy. I only recently got my eyes open by a video and I had a realization. Oh, dude, I never really liked Trump to begin with. The one video, literally, the time that I didn't like him, joking or not, I don't care, I didn't like him after this, was when he supposedly poked fun at, when he poked some fun at this disabled reporter, moving his hand, I can't remember, and my dad was pissed. When he seen that moment happen on a news report or live, I don't know. But when he seen that, he was pissed. Because he was thinking about me, like, how would he like it if somebody, like, if he made fun of me, if I was reporting something, I would be pissed, bro. That's part of the reason why I didn't like him. Oh yeah, let's also talk about the fact this man was found guilty in that trial in New York. People are also calling it rigged. But what they don't even know, apparently they don't know how a judicial system, how a jury works. Because I was a jury of their peers and the crime took place in New York. As Brian Tyler Cohen, say what you will about him, but as Brian Tyler Cohen once said, where do they want him to do this at? In Oakland? In Oregon? He said Oregon, Oklahoma or something. I think he said Oakland or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, well, you know what, let's do... I even had this thought in my mind. Okay, so he was found guilty in a blue state. Okay, that's the excuse they're going for. What would happen if he went to a red state and they also found him guilty there? Would that be rigged too? Or would that open their eyes and realize, oh, okay, yeah, he's definitely guilty. That's the problem that I got with the far right Trump supporters. I call them Trumplicans because they're Republicans who follow only Trump. And this one conservative YouTuber made a post, defending the January 6th rioter. And I'm like, this is coming from a guy who is defending somebody who is currently supporting January 6th riot insurrectionists and rioters. But yet he probably had a problem at any time. Because in 2016 when Clinton lost, I do remember hearing about people going out and destroying shit, and I wasn't happy about that either. I was not happy about that either, but I also pointed out to the guy, yeah, also remember they never went into the Capitol building because they were that pissed off that their person lost? No, that was just Trump supporters. I haven't seen anybody respond to that, by the way. I don't really care if they do or not, because at this point I'm just stating my mind. Whether they want to see it or not, I don't care. Hell, I wouldn't even be surprised if they delete it because they don't like it that somebody is calling them out on their bullshit, on their hypocrisy. Also, in the event there were ever some moments where a peaceful BLM protests had any sort of violence rolling out in the middle of it, my dad even said one time, if he was in one of those peaceful protests and he sees somebody destroying something, he would instantly bring a cop over and say, yeah, I just seen that person do this. You should go arrest them. Yeah, I would be completely understanding on that. But yeah, they wanted to go off on those things, but they had no problem with the January 6th riot and the January 6th attack on the Capitol building? Gosh, that is hypocrisy to the max, man. Because I even said, if you, I even told, I probably put this man in this place because he made a post saying my pride flag and it showed the American flag earlier this month, and I'm like, you say you love this country, but you really wouldn't. But I don't believe you, because instead of standing alongside your fellow Americans who are going through a lot of bullshit right now, because of people like Trump, making them look evil when when a number of them really aren't, who are not able to say anything because they fear they're going to be attacked. Like, you got LGBTQ plus people who don't really feel comfortable coming out because they feel like they're going to be bashed on the internet for coming out. You got women who are having their decisions being made for them because the state wants to control what they do with their bodies, specifically with the baby inside of them. You've got all different kinds of ethnic people who are not being treated fairly by us even to this day because they're still not getting paid anywhere near as much as a person would if they were white. Oh, females go through it even worse. Ethnic, non-white females go through it worse because just because of what they look like. You got so many people in this country that are going through so many different. Oh, and let's not also forget about the veterans, whom Trump called whom were a number of whom any military personnel whom Trump called. Let's not forget Trump called prisoners of war, POWs, losers. By the way, yeah. They are, yeah, just basically that alone pissed me off with Trump as well. And I even told that to a friend of mine. I'm like, okay, like I told him about the guy when he made fun of that disabled person. He's like, oh, that was just a joke. Okay, what about when he called people who were captured in war loser? Like any of our military personnel who are POWs, he called them losers. When he said it, yeah, he didn't like that. He didn't like that at all. He was, yeah, he just. I don't know if I opened his eyes, but I damn well bet he was thinking about that for a little bit. Yeah, he was thinking on that some, and I'm like, yeah, you say he's a good person. Oh yeah, and also to me, Trump only supports one group of people, and they have to follow these credentials. Trump will only support white, rich, male, normal-looking Americans. If you follow all four of them, you're good. You're good in his eyes. But if you are not any of them, if you are not even one of them, any of them, if you're not even if you even don't follow one credential, you mean nothing to him. In all honesty, I even told the guy, if you want to follow a mindset, follow John McCain's. I may not always agree with anything he said, but damn straight, the man gave a fuck about this country in his own way. I said that my dad even told me one time during the election in 2008. I wasn't able to vote on that one, but I was able to vote. I wasn't able to vote on that one, but I was able to vote in the 2012 election. I think it was either 2012 or 2016. I can't remember. But my dad told me one time, if it wasn't for Sarah Palin being his running mate, my dad would have voted for John McCain over Barack Obama. But because he voted for that, all most politicians care about is to be enough to vote for them. Yeah, that's the thing. To me, there are people that care about us. The only problem is they're few and far in between over people that just want to cater to their respective supporters. Like that's if you ask me where I stand on the political spectrum, I would say I'm a center leftist because I mostly agree with what the left believes, but there are a few right beliefs I also believe in. But there's not that many of them, I'll admit, because I'm more of the type of person that believes everybody should be given equal rights. I believe that a person should have the right to defend themselves. Now, we're not delving into the Second Amendment, and God forbid, that's the most controversial one there because of how it's worded. It's worded in a way where people, even to this day, question what it's supposed to mean, particularly when it seems like people look at one part of it, at parts of it, but not the whole thing. I could tell you how I feel about it if I wanted to, but that is delving on a whole different ball game over there, and we're not delving into that at all because I know what would happen. Because as to give you a little taste, the last time I ever talked about the Second Amendment, it was on TikTok. God forbid it had to be on TikTok. Um, and so many people bashed me for what I said. Because personally, from my perspective, I believe that, and I'm going to delve into my personal beliefs, and you can agree with it or not, blah, blah, blah. I was raised in a Republican household, and I am a registered Republican, more libertarian with both pros and cons on both sides. Yeah, I'm more like I'll probably do a video. I've been saying this so many times, but I will gladly do a video delving into what my personal beliefs are if somebody wants to see that. So far, nobody's been saying anything. But here's my take on the Second Amendment, alright? I do believe that a person should have a right to defend himself. I believe a person should have at least 3 weapons. Because any more, and here's why. I believe a person should have a sidearm, like a pistol, like a pistol sized gun. They should have that to defend themselves, to defend oneself. They should have a shotgun in their house to defend one's property. And they should have, and if they are the hunting type, they should have the choice between a hunting or a sniper rifle, whichever works for them for their hunting. I don't believe anybody needs to have a god awful amount of weapons in their house. As far as gun permits go, I would say that it's honestly more of a good thing because in some ways it's a good thing because, if somebody, we played Police Simulator. And to me, that's how it should honestly be with guns. If you have a gun permit, you're good. If you don't have a gun permit, regardless of the reason why you don't have it, then yeah, I would be a bit more concerned with that. But you wouldn't know a person if they have a gun permit or not, or you'll just see they have a gun and come up with your own conclusions on that, right? I also believe there's this one thing a person on TikTok said. We should treat guns like we do our cars. What he meant by this was that there should be a thing where if you guys know how driving a car works, like the whole process of getting a driver's license, getting a gun license should be like getting a driver's license. In order for you to get a driver's license, you have to read this book. For those of you that don't know how this works, I'm going to explain it real quick. For you, I know we've been pausing on this one moment for 10, 15 minutes now, but I just want to say this much. And then we're going to move on. To get a driver's license in the United States, what you have to do is you have to take a booklet and you have to read it. And I'm pretty sure you got to do this for every state that you're in. So in my case, I'm in the state of an OH, and so I would have to read this book, the state book, the booklet that is provided to me that I can get from my local DMV. I'd have to read this book, study it, and once I study the book and I go to take the test, I have to pass that test by answering 7 of 10 questions at least correctly. Anything else, I have to wait some time to take the test again. But if I do get that, if I do get past the test, then I'm given a learner's permit, and then I have to spend some time on the road, some of that at night, until I am ready to take the driving test, which is basically where you have cones surrounding you. You got cones surrounding your car, and you got cones that surround the two ways that you're going to be told to pull up forward and then back and then go in reverse. And you do it the other way and then back, do that again. I don't know if they let you do the driving test afterward, like on the road, but that's what I know they do. And they will deduct points off of you if you get some things wrong. So basically, just wait until they say the test is done, and then you're done with that. With gun light now, like I said, the guy was saying you should you should give people gun licenses like you do driver's license, whereas they take a booklet, they read the book that tells you how to clean a gun, how to properly use a gun, etc. It's basically everything you need to know about the gun, how to use it, how to clean it, etc. Like do that, then take a test. Got to get 7 out of 10 questions correct to pass, and then when you do that, take a learner's permit so you can go to like one of those shooting ranges. Or so I don't know how he said it, but it did boil down to where you ultimately get a gun license in the end with that. I would have to find that TikTok video, but it would take forever trying to find it because it's in one of my liked videos, and good luck trying to find it in my liked videos. But I do know it was by this person named Tom Powell. Yeah. But right now we are way behind in watching this, so let's go ahead and watch some more of this. Oh, I'm gonna just joke and say, when they say fake news here, I'm automatically thinking of Fox News. CNN can be under the same thing as well, because to me, news sources that cater to their audience, like CNN and Fox News, I don't really listen to them because all they're doing is catering to their fan base. If I want to watch the news, I want to listen to like the middleman sources because I know they're not really catering too much to one side or the other. They're going to talk as much fact as they want, they're going to talk as much fact as they can about something, and they'll probably update it like that. First basic rule said of owning a gun: never aim it at anyone unless you intend to shoot. Never shoot unless you intend to kill. I would say, see, I would personally make it to where I would say use it in self-defense entirely, no matter what. If you use it in self-defense easily, I would just say it like that. Use it in self-defense, like the person in our first story, who was dealing with like 3 people that were doing this plot to try to get him to pass them over on the road. Then they bring out their baseball bats and boom, boom, boom. They just beat the crap out of his car. He goes and this person just pulls off to the side, and he comes out. They're walking towards him with the baseball bats, and he comes out and shows his weapon, and they're instantly like this, and I'm like, technically and I'm like, dude, you know what? I agree with him on doing this, because they are threatening him with those bats, and they just destroyed his private property, and he is defending both himself and that property. So he had every right to defend himself in that situation. No matter how he was going to shoot him, he had every right to defend himself in that situation. Every bit of right. And then there was also I love how we're like I did say we were gonna be talking about random stuff in this stream, so yeah, there's that. But anyway, there was also a yeah, so and there was also this one story that I remember hearing about where a cop was called to a scene because there was a person who looked like who based on how he was studying him had a mental illness. He had a weapon on him, but he wasn't pointing it at anybody. He just had the weapon on him, but he could tell based on how the person was acting that he had mental health issues. So the cop did not shoot at the guy because while yes he did have a weapon, he wasn't really threatening anybody with it. But then when other cops showed up, they all instantly saw the gun and they just shot him. Now in that situation, what would you do? That's a hard question to answer. But what would you do in that situation? Would you be the first cop who showed up? Would you try to help the person if you notice they had mental health issues and can tell they're not pointing the weapon at anybody? Or would you be like or would you like be the other cops and shoot first, ask questions later, pretty much? The part about that in the end of the story, the first cop who didn't shoot the guy, he got fired for not shooting at him, apparently, or something like that. He ended up getting fired for his inaction because they felt like, well, the guy had a gun on him. He wasn't pointing at anybody, but he had a weapon on him. That's a hard question to ask. That's a hard question to answer. I know, but that's that's a question to think about. What would you do in that situation? That's just something to think about. But like I said earlier, to me, let's see here, I would try to talk to him if he began pointing the weapon. Yeah, I would agree with that. See, I would definitely agree with that. But like I said earlier, to me, a gun, or any weapon for that matter, should only be used in self-defense, not to incite fear. Because if you're going to use it to incite fear, I believe, like, regardless of what you're doing with it, if you're using it to incite fear, even if you don't fire any shots, I believe your gun should be taken away from you. Because if you're not using it to defend yourself, if you're going to use it to incite fear and not defend yourself, why do you have it? That's what I believe. That is my personal belief. A weapon should only be used in self-defense, never to incite fear. And if you're going to use it to incite fear and not self-defense, you should have it taken. I know it's going to piss off some libertarians, but like some real hardcore libertarians, but that's my thought on it. That's just how I feel about that. Because I will always believe a weapon should be, that's just how I see it. Now, because if you look at the Second Amendment, they do add this one thing, the security of a free state. In my book, that's saying if you're defending your state, almost like the National Guard in a way, but if you're defending your state, then you have every right to be bearing arms. But if you're not doing it like that, then if you're not using it in self-defense outside of security of a free state, you should have it taken away. That's my thought on it. But anyway, we're moving on. We're delving into we're delving into too many crazy things. Let's just move on.
Always had some fake news YouTube video playing on her TV that you would see immediately upon walking into the house. She has angered everyone in my family at least once, multiple times for most, as well as all of her neighbors at some point or another. In fact, my older sister lived with her for a while after moving out once she got pregnant with her first kid, and my grandmother guilt-tripped her into physical labor while she was pregnant. And then when my sister left, my grandmother called the cops to track her down because she reported that she stole their car, even though it was in my sister's name. Everybody else who's lived on her property or even just took jobs from her in the slightest all have had similar stories about how toxic she truly is. She's even complained about how her second house is so full of problems, even though she was the one who had a bunch of independent laborers build it based on her own design instead of hiring qualified architects and builders to do it for her. My mom won't even talk to her anymore. Fast forward to August of 2020, and I'm driving her home from one of her appointments.
Oh God, that was during Cough Cough. That's another reason why I didn't like Trump, because he catered to his people instead of caring about the American people. That was my take on his whole thing on COVID during that time. Yeah, that was when I just had no respect for him after that. I was just pissed off.
Starts talking about how vaccines cause autism, and this is one of her favorite topics since.
Oh God, if I remember the biggest thing about those vaccines that I remember hearing about was that they're gonna chip you. They're gonna put a chip in you with the vaccinations. And I was thinking like, yeah, you know these things, like this thing that I'm using, you know, cell phones. Yeah, they already chipped them. Why would they need to chip us if they already have chips in our phone? I don't think they need to chip us if they got chips in the phone. I really don't think so.
Oh, she used to be a nurse. I've made every effort to tolerate her garbage up to this point, but after so many weeks of hearing the same stupid garbage almost every day, I was honestly over it. I told her she was wrong, and that was about as far as the rest of the conversation went before she started yelling at me. All while I was still in the process of driving her home, mind you. She screamed at me, "Get out and go live with your mother for all I care." She then proceeded to chew me out about how she was sick of my attitude and that I didn't have any right to talk to her that way, while also claiming that I didn't do anything around the problem.
What? Are we talking about the vaccine, or are we talking about chips and cell phones? Because I personally don't really care for... If it's like one of those fucking... like those fucking far-right conspiracy theories, I don't want to hear it. Because I personally, I don't really care for theories, but if it's not a conspiracy theory, I'm all for hearing it. Because as long as it seems like it makes sense, I'm all for it. But if it doesn't seem like it makes sense, I'm going to be like, yeah, that doesn't make no sense. And then I'm going to proceed to laugh like I am now.
Help out. So you know what? I did exactly as she
because
said.
I do that all the
moved
time.
in with my mom, which also happened to be at the same time I finally found a job. The only problem was that I couldn't take my dog and cat with me, since my mom had other cats and couldn't manage having a dog in the house.
Yeah.
My grandmother, who was still upset, agreed to watch them only until I found a place of my own. In a couple of months, I still haven't saved up enough money to save up my own place to have, so I ended up moving into an extended stay hotel for a while. I visit my grandmother to tell her I'm still working on finding a place, only to find out that she gave away my dog to the vet because I had not come to take him back yet.
Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. Take my dog to the vet without my knowing, let alone my approval? Oh, I'd be pissed. Oh, dude, I would be tripping. I would be so pissed at anybody who did that. they would have regretted doing it instantly. I would be. Oh, yeah, my dad's evil. Oh, dude, I get that evil side from him. I can be evil myself if you push me too far.
I still don't know what she did with my cat. And when I called the vet later that day, they explained to me that she lied to them about how she had tried to contact me and that I had abandoned my animals with her when she never once tried to call me once
Yep.
since I moved out. Unfortunately, they had already adopted my dog to someone else and could not provide any contact information for confidentiality reasons. And even though they said they would forward my information to the new owner in case they wanted to speak with me, I never got a call from anyone. I still think about my dog and my cat and what they must have thought when they never got the chance to see me again. It honestly keeps me up at night sometimes because of how angry and sad it makes me. My grandfather has since passed away, and I truly hope he found some peace. He wasn't the easiest person to live with, and I know he was far from a saint in life, but even he did not deserve to endure the absolute nightmare that my grandmother put him through all throughout the entirety of their marriage. She is still going on strong, surviving purely off of bitterness and spite. If I had
Oh, dude. I can already tell where she's going. The moment I can already tell. The grandfather's probably up in heaven. Grandmother's gonna burn in hell at this point.
imagine it. I did have to miss my grandfather's funeral because of COVID, but honestly, when it comes time, I think I'm gonna stay home for her funeral as well.
Oh,
What an
yeah.
awful circumstance to be stuck in.
Yeah, fuck her. I have no sympathy for anybody who's gonna dude. You don't mess. One thing I've learned in many different stories: you never mess with another human being's animals unless it involves taking care of them. You don't do anything else to them. You take care of them like you're supposed to, and there you go. As for the vet, you know, it's weird how they didn't call OP to let them know about. Of course, Grandma probably said something, but yeah. Do you trust the government? Do I trust the government? Because of how the government is acting right now, like across the board, where for the most part they're mainly catering to their side and not really wanting to care for the well-being of the American people. Not really. Because to me, the only politicians I will ever support are those who genuinely care about the American people, and that's very few and far in between, if any at all. They are very few and far in between those kinds of government officials. Oh, the microchips. Anyway, where's this video you was talking about? Let me try to find it. I just noticed this comment right here. If Trump really resents the media and government as much as he says he does, then why would he honestly have gotten anywhere near the White House? I feel like he just wanted to put it on, he probably had it on his bucket list. I personally feel like he's putting the presidency on his bucket list. And now that he became president, he's got it on his bucket list. Be two-term president. He probably does. Okay, let's try to find this video. Oh wait, I'm already a word ahead. Oh, yeah. Oh, there it is. Okay. When you have a really good turn in a card game. Minute 49, okay.
Alright, my turn. I play a farmland card. I tap it for 1.
Okay, I should take a note that I have heard of Magic the Gathering, but I've never played it. I honestly don't know if I'd be able to play it very well, but we're just moving on from that.
I can play Dairy Cow, because Dairy Cow is a grazing type, and I have green as grass in play. I get 5 milk counters on her, which attracts Raging Bull from my hand. Raging Bull has 10 attack, but I can sell the 5 milk counters to the grocery store that I have on my side of the field for 15 dairy dollars. I then convert 15 dairy dollars to 30 mana, and that lets me play Big Gun.
They actually blurred this thing out. Oh my god. YouTube really doesn't like guns anymore. Not unless you're doing it for educational purposes, apparently. God damn. Oh my god.
Now he has 20 attack. Okay, so you win. Now you might say, hold on a second. You have tollgate cards on your side of the field. I didn't say anything. And with tollgate cards, how can my dairy driver possibly afford to bring the milk counters to the grocery store? How, you ask? He's just saying things now. Because I have a good work ethic card in my hand. I play it, and dairy driver gets a raise, which means he can afford all the tollgates. Okay. With the extra dairy dollars my dairy driver has, I invest in and play a cheese factory. The cheese factory creates 1 cheese per turn, so I look at the top 5 cards of my deck, and here we go. The Black Brie. I don't think that card's even legal anymore. Black Brie gets served, and I receive 3 colorless cheese chakra. With 3 colorless cheese chakra, I can tap my cheese factory 3 more times, and now I've done a tap somersault. With a somersaulting cheese factory, I can create triple the cheese output and get 9 cheese chakra. I'm gonna go get lunch. Do you want anything? No, I'm good. I'll be back in like 30 minutes. Good. That's how long I'll need to set up the cheese tasting phase. Jesus Christ.
This video is sponsored by Magic the Gathering Arena, the new digital version of the popular Magic the Gathering card game, out now. Check it out.
Oh my god. Oh jeez. Oh man. Let me just tell you, man. That was kind of. I'm not a Magic the Gathering person because, like I said, I never played the card game. I've got Yu-Gi-Oh over here, but that was really hilarious. That was really funny. It's just like that. It's like that one. I mean, the same thing could happen in Yu-Gi-Oh, where you could just have like, you could just feel like what the first player could feel like. Yes, okay, I got a good combination. Kind of small, but I think it could work over time, so they do that. And then the next guy's like, I'm gonna end your whole fucking career. Like, it's just so funny. Oh, I love that. It's just so funny to me. Alright, let's take a look. So I actually did have, like I said, I was gonna watch another video there. You ever watched, oh wait, taxes equal, let's see, hold on. Taxes equal legalized extortion, war equals legalized murder. You're gonna make me think of the song War by Edwin Starr, I think his name was. War! Yeah. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Listen to me. Ow. But anyway, let's see. Have I ever watched Boogie? Not recent. I honestly have not watched any of his content for so many years. I personally don't even know when the last time I watched his content even was. I don't even remember when I last watched of his. It was literally that many years ago. The only thing I can think of is probably a McJuggernuggets video that he was involved in, but that's really about it. Yeah, right here. Not this one, but it's something else. Yeah, oh, here's what I'm looking for right here. I think it was to do with him destroying an Xbox 360. There was a video I love by him. It was Oh yes, Xbox 360, the console that had the worst opening of any video game console ever. Why? Red Ring of Death. I know this because I remember there was a documentary there was like a multi-part documentary that was made about the history of the Xbox systems. And at one of the videos they talk about the Xbox 360's disastrous launch because they were trying to get ahead of the competition, particularly PlayStation, because of fucking course they would. So they released the Xbox 360 in 2005 or 2006, I can't remember. They tried to release it only for people that experienced the Red Ring of Death, and it was just it was like the plague. So many different systems. So many systems were going crazy on that. Like, it's not even funny. Alright, so remember that GameStop story I was telling you about? This is probably in the one that I said where I would like to go to GameStop just for a brief period, but do it around the time when GTA 6 comes out just to see how many kids try to get a copy of the game. That's in reference to this story. Take a listen.
Next to the Wii story, the Wii Christmas story.
Oh yeah, the Wii Christmas story. A bit of a flashback, a bit of a context for that. During the time when the Wii was new, this person was working at a GameStop, and she did this thing where she came up with this idea of counting out how many Wiis they had, and write down the number, and then just give it to people, give the numbers to people, and whatever number they stopped on, anybody past that number would not be able to get one. So they would be out. So they did that, and then it was about 7 a.m. later that morning. It was 7 a.m. And this woman, who, as this person puts it, was looking like she was having the worst day of her life, was crying, looked like she was crying so much that she asks, this person, listen, you probably are out of them, but can you please check to see but do you have any Wiis? And this person, while initially was told by her boss not to go anywhere, they're short-staffed, she instead chooses to just basically disobey the boss and goes back to look. And at first she doesn't see it, but then as she's about to leave, she notices something and she moves stuff out of the way and she sees this Wii. It was like this Mario edition of the Wii. And so she takes it out, and this woman goes from crying into just being oh so happy. And so this person that was working at GameStop basically wants to make sure she has everything she needs. Controllers, any extra batteries or something, some games, you name it, she was pretty much asking the customer for it. And by the end of everything, this woman was made a $700 purchase because the reason why she was desperately wanting this Wii was because her son, was going through something, and this was most likely going to be the last Christmas he was going to have in his life. So that's why the GameStop employee that we're going to hear this other story from was wanting to make sure she had everything she needed. And the $700 sale was made that day with that. The boss, because she disobeyed the boss, was upset because of that. So he tries to talk to her, and she's basically telling him, yeah, you understand I actually helped you out here, but you're complaining about it? Really? And then he tries to say, well, I just came back here to... Well, if you're coming back here and there's nobody at the front of the store, why are you back here talking to me? She literally says that too. So he goes back. And the funny thing is, later on, she finds out that because of what happened that day, the sale that she made was the top sale of that week. And, you know, moral of the story, and she even says, moral of the story, just be considerate to the people, because you don't know what they're going through. You don't know what people are going through, and that's why they're coming in feeling the way they feel. That's why, and that's true literally everywhere. You could have the same customer stop by every so often, but they could be having like a good day one time, but then they could be just irritated or just annoyed or pissed off or something the next time you see them. That's why it is your job as the cashier to make sure they walk like they're walking in how they're walking in, but you make sure they're walking out happy to the best of your ability. That is our job. and that's not just a thing at GameStop. That's everywhere. When you're a cashier or you're an associate working in the aisles, your main job is to help a customer and make sure they leave your area happy. And if you're a cashier, you make sure they leave the store happy. But let's listen to this story right here. Because personally for me, as great as that Wii story is, this one is hilarious.
The 8-year-old with the GTA is my absolute favorite story about when I used to work at GameStop years and years and years ago. So good. I ruined that child's dreams so badly. So I'm the hot girl working at GameStop, right?
Yeah.
I'm like that archetype. This little 8-year-old comes in by himself. No chaperone in sight. There's nobody in here. Kid just walks immediately back to the Xbox section, picks up a copy of GTA 5 and GTA. No, it wasn't 5. Might have been 4. I don't remember. It was GTA, and he threw it down on the thing, and he's like just tall enough where he has to do the to like put it up on the counter. Like that's how small this kid is, right? And I'm like, can I help you? And he's like, I want this one, please. I'm like, yeah, you have a parent with you? I have my mom, but she's out in the car. Yeah, you're gonna have to go get your mom. I can't sell you this, honey. You're gonna have to go get your mom. Oh, she said she doesn't want to come in. Well, I guess you don't want the game then. You have two choices. Either you can go get your mom or you can not get the game. Those are the two choices I'm giving you.
Yep.
Okay.
Because if you know anything about GTA, it is a very mature, it is a very adult-oriented game. Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed, it is. Now, let it be known, in order for it. Now, here's how it works. If you're going to try to get an M-rated game, you better be an adult. But think of a mature-rated game like an R-rated movie. In order for you to watch, if you're a kid and you want to watch this R-rated movie, you have to have parents with you. In this case, you need to have the parent. In this case, with this M-rated game, which is Grand Theft Auto, which I know is one of the most popular video game series of all time, you have to be 17 plus to purchase it. Because, I mean, it says M for mature and it's 17 plus on it there. There. Hey, Daniel, how you doing today? How you doing today? And a good morning to you. How you doing today? But anyway, like I was saying, yeah, so, because, like, I actually remember, when I used to work at Walmart, I don't work there anymore, but yeah, sub good. Appreciate the subscribe, and good, nice to hear you're doing good. But anyway, so I remember when I was working at Walmart for a brief period, one of my customers was like this little boy, this young man, and his mother right next to him. And he was trying to get some fireworks. I think it was like in the 4th of July season, probably. I don't know. He was trying to get some fireworks or sparklers or whatever. And I ring it up, and it's asking me if he's 13 years old. So I asked him, are you 13 years old? No. And instantly, and I said, well, she's going to have to buy it because I can't legally sell this to you because you're not 13. Mother immediately steps in and says, okay, I'll buy it for him. So, and there was no problem with that. Like, not a single problem whatsoever. Gonna head out, man. Sorry, but bro, it's 4:30 here, too. So, yeah, I'm probably going to be ending the stream shortly after this anyway. So, yeah, but I remember that. It's crazy.
Kid walks out, goes out the parking lot, comes back in, and walks up to the counter all indignant, like, how dare you ask me to go get my mom? The mom is not in any of a better mood because she was clearly reading probably some erotic Harlequin novel in the car by herself and did not want to be disturbed. So she comes in, she's like this already, looking at me like, how dare you disturb me? How dare you not sell the thing to my child and come get me? And I said, ma'am, hi, is that your kid? She says, yes. I said, all right, cool. Well, this is a mature rated game. I cannot legally sell this to you because this is an 18 and up product.
Yep.
What do you mean it's 18? I mean 18 and up, as in 1-8, as in 1-8 plus, as in 18 years on this planet, as in the child is 8 and not 18. He needs to grow 10 years or he needs to get your permission. Yep. Well, he says it's just a racing game. Yeah, Mom, it's just a racing game, like I said. I just...
Yes, a racing game that's rated M for mature. It doesn't fucking matter. No matter what kind of game it is, if it's M for mature, it needs parents' permission. It doesn't matter. Shush.
I just want to play a racing game, and my friend Billy.
Now it should be duly noted there is some racing there are some moments in the game where you do race. In the story mode, as well as online has God knows how many races on it. But yeah, it does have races in it, but that's more of a side thing. If you played Grand Theft Auto before, you know exactly what kind of game it is. All those activities, racing, tennis, golf, yoga, whatever, none of that matters in this game. It's literally all about death and destruction and committing any kind of crime you could possibly try to get away with in the game. That's pretty much the gist of it. And it's definitely not for kids whatsoever with how violent this series can go at times. I mean, dude, I've played Vice City, and there are times where I will use a gun on a person, and the blast will be so intense, and it just blows a person's head just off, like clean off. Do you really think a child should be playing a game like that? So, well, apparently some parents do because they're crazy. Especially the parents that think, oh, my kid's a personal little angel, he deserves this game. But your personal little angel is acting like a foul mouth Stone Cold Steve Austin up in this Yeah, but your kid, well, you may not be noticing this from your own end, but your kid is acting like a foul-mouthed Stone Cold Steve Austin. Who's that? I'll tell you what. I'll just say the clip and I'll just say the clip and I'm gonna post it on the YouTube, and then I'll even give you my channel name, and then and I'm gonna title it "Little Kid Goes All Stone Cold Steve Austin" for just to get it. Yeah, kid goes Stone Cold Steve Austin. Some parents are morally irresponsible. Oh, I know. Yep, I agree with that a lot because, as some people have pointed out in the comments of this video, parents are just so ignorant of the ESRB. There's a reason why that existed. Excuse me. A little bit of history about the ESRB. The only reason why the ESRB even exists, as far as we go, is because of Mortal Kombat. And parents were so concerned. We're just up in arms about this game. Apparently, they were either concerned, they were up in arms, or whatever. And it was such a controversy that the ESRB was ultimately created, and it was because of Mortal Kombat. Not when I say Mortal Kombat 1, I'm talking the very first ever Mortal Kombat game that ever came out, not the recent Mortal Kombat that's titled Mortal Kombat 1. But if you notice how Mortal Kombat has progressed, it has gotten more and more bloodier, more violent, more gory, more insane over the years. As we go from one Mortal Kombat to the next, it's basically like where you think, how are they going to top the last one? And then you watch the fatalities on the new game and you're like, yeah, to some fatalities they did, others it's like, too damn basic for my liking. That's what it basically boils down to. But yeah, the ESRB was created because of Mortal Kombat. Not surprisingly at all. I mean, it is kind of, but when you look at how Mortal Kombat 1 is, it's basically characters getting their head taken off. Or if not, their skeletons being exposed after they were burned alive. Whereas nowadays, you got characters whose arms are cut off, whose limbs are broken, who will have parts of them cut off but have the rest of them still on. It's just like you could watch the Mortal Kombat 1992 fatalities from back in the day and watch the Mortal Kombat 1 fatalities of the most recent game, and you will see the very drastic, like, so many differences in how the violence was okay back in the day compared to how it is okay with people now. Yeah, it still gets some flack for being a violent video game, but because, people gotta spoil the fun. But yeah, it's so much more. It's so much more violent compared to the last game, which was Mortal Kombat 11.
That's it? My friend Billy has this game, and it's just a racing game, Mom. Alright, cool. So it's just a racing game. What's the problem? Cool. Hey, Mom, come here a minute. Come here. I'm going to flip this case over. You see this right here, this list of warnings? I'm going to go ahead and read this for...
Here, hold on a second. Let me do something here. Because I got this right here, actually. Hold on a second. See if I can find them. Let's see if I can find it real quick. That sounded very interesting, but alright. Yeah, let's take a look at just for old time's sake, let's take a look at Grand Theft Auto 5's reasons why it's rated M for mature. Let's see. Grand Theft Auto 5 on PlayStation 5, rated M for mature for intense violence, which basically means violence that's like more realistic compared to cartoony violence. Blood and gore, which basically means there's blood and there's going to be dismemberments in this part. Nudity, people have no clothes on. Mature humor, adult humor, pretty much. Strong language, which means it's going to contain it's going to contain a lot of adult language, including the N-word use from the black characters. Strong sexual content. Basically, you basically can get a hooker in your car and you can have her do sexual things to you, to name an example. And use of drugs and alcohol. You know what they are. I mean, if you've played Police Simulator, you'll know what they are. Tell me, do you think any of that would be good for a kid? Because a little backstory on that one. My nephew, when he was younger, would play Grand Theft Auto 5, and he would get a bit more violent than before he was playing the game. It got so bad that we basically made it a rule: no Grand Theft Auto 5. You are not allowed to play Grand Theft Auto 5. He would for a time, he would get upset. When we started implementing this, he got upset because he was so used to playing it. But we noticed what was going on with him, and we just told him no. I think I noticed it more than anybody else, and I told them about it, and they all agreed. Yeah, he should be playing this game if this is what's going on. Yeah, so they agreed. So they agreed with me on that one, and so then recently he tried to tell me, I played Grand Theft Auto 5 and it's not as bad as you say it. And I'm like, dude, it wasn't the fact that it's bad. It's the fact that you're playing a game and you ended up being more violent than before you played it. That's why we told you not to play it over here. Because when I was his age, when he was playing it the first time, when I was his age, I was playing Grand Theft Auto 3 and Vice City. So I'm not saying he couldn't play Grand Theft Auto 5 because I played Grand Theft Auto 3 and Vice City when I was like 5-6 years old. And because my family members some of my relatives on my dad's side had those two games. And this crazy thing happened. I never was violent and I never did. And even to this day, even though I played Grand Theft Auto, I never even think about doing the shit that you see your characters do in the games. Because I have common sense and I know not to do that. But getting back to the story.
Very loudly. Sex, drugs,
Yep.
explicit nudity,
Yep.
Exhibitionism,
Exhibitionism. That's the first time I've heard of exhibitionism. I've heard of it before, but I don't know what that means.
crimes, carjacking,
Yep.
and the list goes on. Like, the list on the back of this box is like this big. The box is only this big. The entire thing is like this long. It's half the back of the box.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, are you sure that's not? I said, ma'am, the name of the game is a felony.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's Grand Theft Auto. The name of the game is a literal federal crime.
Yep.
Well, is there nudity? Yes. In fact, if you want the breakdown, any player can go into a strip club and get a full nudity lap dance.
Mm-hmm.
In this game.
Yep.
Uncensored.
Yep.
Will you told me it was just a racing game. But Mom, it is just a racing game. Billy has it. Mom, I'm here to tell you that this is not just a racing game. And this poor 8-year-old is...
You know, I would have said, ma'am, I'm just going to tell you, this is not a racing game. And even if it was, it's still M for mature, which means I still need you still need to give permission for him to get that game in order for it to be purchased and he can play it. I would have said it like that.
Looking up at me like, you fucking ruined it. You ruined it. You're telling her the truth. You
Yep.
ruined it. You're ruining this for me. And I'm just sitting here smiling the whole time like, yeah, I would not recommend this game for anybody under the age of 18, considering the fact that you actually have to have an ID to buy it, just like cigarettes, just like alcohol, and your 8-year-old son really is not ready for this type of content. If you want a racing game, however, we have a lot of different racing games. Over here, we have Need for Speed, we have Forza, we have all of these different games. Like, we got Mario Kart if they're into Nintendo. We have and the one that pissed this child off the worst was we have Nicktoons Racing if he's into that.
What's about this Nicktoon Racing? I mean, I never played it myself, but what you got against the Nicktoons, man? Nickelodeon can be awesome at times. Come on. I had to go there. No, I got no issue. I got no regrets doing that.
PlayStation Kids, we love that. This kid was so angry. Like, you could see the aura of red off this child's body because I was treated.
You know, I'm just gonna say for the record, I'm kind of surprised she did not say Gran Turismo. But she said Forza and Need for Speed, but she never said Gran Turismo? What the hell is wrong with you? No, I'm kidding.
8-year-old like an 8-year-old. And he's just like, well, I don't want any of those. I want GTA. And I looked right at him and I was like, I know you do.
Yep.
Your mom knows you do.
Yep.
We got it. And she goes, well, if you don't want any of these, then we're not getting that one. So we might as well leave. Kid leaves empty-handed because I ruined his dreams of being an 8-year-old in a strip club. I'm the worst employee ever. So honestly, I went through a lot of garbage working at the game stores that I worked at, but there are these little moments that live rent-free in my head forever, and that is one of them. I loved when little kids came in, tried to spin a story.
I could already see I already knew you were going to be laughing about that bit. Let's be honest here. I was dying when I first seen this. I'm like, oh my god. Dude, that's why I said I would love to go to a GameStop. I would love to work at a GameStop just around the release of GTA 6 and just try to see how many kids are going to try to come into the store just to get a copy of Grand Theft Auto 6 and basically walk out empty-handed. Like, I don't get me wrong, I do expect some parents to walk in with their kid and buy the game for them. Blah, blah, blah. You know, did you see my previous comment? Well, comment for Teletubbies, we tell you about that an episode of Teletubbies. Yes, okay, yeah. Let's put it to it's like what I said. Back in the day, it was enough to back in the day for Mortal Kombat in 1991 I think it was 1991, it was enough for parents to go off on a video game that did have some violence. It's literally not that violent nowadays, but like by modern day standards. But back in the day, it was enough to cause an uproar for the ESRB to be a thing. I mean, it wasn't like the head, like decapitations, people just being turned into skulls or skeletons, particularly the spine rip fatality, where the head comes off but the spine is still attached. as well as the fact that you have a stage fatality where an uppercut sends your opponent down into the spikes below. That was just enough to get parents to freak out. Little fun fact though. There was a game that came out in the later half of the 1980s, named Barbarian, I think, and there was this one thing where you could do a fatality of decapitating your opponent if you timed the strike just right. What's ironic here is that did not cause any sort of controversy. The only thing that did was the cover art. That was it. Like that was literally it. It was just the cover art of the game. The fact that you could decapitate your opponent was not called for concern. I think it was in Britain. I think it was in the British countries, actually, now that I think about it, and this game came out. And they had a problem with the cover art more than the fact that you could decapitate your opponent. Yet Americans had a problem with all kinds of stuff in the game. And it's like, if you also think about it, how many kids when we were kids, how many times have you watched a movie that you probably were told you were not allowed to watch the movie at your house, but you go to a friend's house, they have that movie, and you'll watch it with them. How many times have you done that? I don't know how many times I've done that, but I'm pretty sure I've probably done it at least once, maybe. Oh, truthfully, I remember one time when I was staying at my grandma's house. One of my aunts lived in the house when you pull into the driveway, there's my grandmother's house and there's my aunt's house on the right. Sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would just start watching television. But then as I'm going through the movie channel, they're putting up movies that I'm not technically supposed to watch because they're R-rated. I remember watching a bit of Stephen King's Sleepwalkers, I think it was called. And there was a few moments in that movie that I remember to this day. One of which involved a guy getting literally stabbed in the back with a cob of corn by the main villainess. And there's also a scene where a cop is trying to stop this woman, and she takes his hand and bites off a couple of his fingers. I remember that. I watched Child's Play 3. I don't remember much. I do remember watching Child's Play 3, but there was nothing that sticking out to me because I didn't watch scary parts of it, if you could even call that a scary movie. I don't remember what else I was watching outside of, like I said, Stephen King's It. But yeah, one night I was watching Child's Play 3, and then the next night I was asked, "Did you watch the Child's Play 3?" And I was like, "No," and they're like, "You watched it, didn't you? Watched it, yeah, you did." And then my aunt was calling for me because they told on me. And so I was told, I remember the first time I seen a Saw movie. Oh, dude. I think the very first Saw was my first Saw movie ever. Because I watched it with my brother-in-law. I think we watched that movie with my brother-in-law. And then we watched, 30 Days of Night as well. I'm not entirely sure, but I remember that. But anyway, but yeah, so anyway, after I got told by my aunt to never watch that type of stuff again, later that night, later in the day, like about a few minutes later, My mom calls us. Like, she calls my grandma's house, but she wants to talk to my sister and I because we were staying for that weekend. And so I'm talking with my mother, how you doing? I'm doing okay. How you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And then next thing you know, my sister comes over. And she holds out her hand like she basically telling me she wants to talk to mom. I gave her this look and she tells me, don't worry, I'm not gonna tell her about what happened. I give her the phone. Oh yeah, hey mama, just to let you know, Forrest watched the Child's Play 3 movie. I was so mad as soon as she said that, I was so mad. And then she gives the phone back to me. And I'm just like, might as well just like, I'm just like, fuck, I might as well just take this beating. Yeah. Now I know she just chewed into me a little. My mom chewed into me a little bit, and I'm just like, that whole time I'm just like, sister. I'm not saying her real name for obvious reasons, but I was like, sister, how dare you? I was so mad when she did that. I'm just like, I had to hear my mom. I had to hear my mother scolding me for watching an R-rated movie like Child's Play 3, which in my book nowadays, I'm like, what is she bitching about? Like, yeah, a guy gets his arm cut off in the early part of the movie. That's literally the only amount of graphic violence that you see. Yeah, you're gonna see a man get his throat slit with a razor. There was some blood in it, but not too fucking much. You have a guy getting blown up by a grenade under him. They don't really show too much in that, like they show a bit of a medium distance shot of the grenade blowing up under him, but after that they show him they show the up close shot of his broken glasses with some blood coming out of his mouth. Not too much. Like, what was the problem? This is literally like on the verge of like, they probably were wondering if they should keep it R rated like they did with the other series, or if they should have made it PG-13. Because to me, it looked more like a PG-13 movie, like an upper tier PG-13 rated movie than an R rated movie. Because yeah, there is some graphic violence in it, but I wouldn't say it's enough for an R rated movie. For some of the violence they got in that movie, that's that's just my thought on it. That's my thought on that movie. Whether I like it or not, I just don't think it's as violent as the other movies that came out before or after it. Because I mean, dude, see, Child's Play 2 is understandably rated R. I mean, we have a character that is electrocuted. We have a character who has his neck broken and you can actually hear the neck snap. You have a character who has his cheeks sliced by Chucky, but then he falls onto the conveyor belt and his head is held on straight and he screams as the doll's eyes come right down, coming over his own eyes, in what is regarded as probably the scariest, probably the most, that one moment that will stick in your head forever. One of those images that will stick in your head forever, no matter how much you try to get it out. Yeah, that movie is understandably rated R. Child's Play 3 actually looks more PG-13 rated compared to Child's Play 2. Child's Play, maybe, I don't know, but yeah, that's my thought on it. Yeah, but Saw, you want to talk about Saw, let's talk about Hostel. Yeah, you want to bring up Saw? Let's talk about Hostel. I laughed at that scene. What, the scene with the guy getting his eyes gouged out with the doll's eyes, or are we talking about something else? Yeah, if you want to talk about Saw, we got to talk about Hostel too. Because we're going to talk about torture horror movies, we got to talk about a movie that is so well known that even its sequel is still to this day banned in multiple countries. I don't know much about the first one, but the second part was banned in multiple countries because of its graphic violence. Yeah, it's just so crazy. But if the conveyor belt guy, did you get my comment about that? Yeah, I did see that. It is that was an awesome movie, but it had so much gore and blood that it makes your typical horror movie look like a mildly violent segment on Jerry Springer. Honestly, if you want to see a bloody, gory movie, like the bloodiest, goriest movie, at least as far as like what's shown in American cinema is concerned, Brain Dead / Dead Alive. Because even Eli Roth has said how every time he watches a horror movie, he's like, more blood, more blood, more blood. But Brain Dead / Dead Alive, however they put it, was the only movie that quenched his thirst for gore. And the crazy thing about that movie, it was directed by the same man who would later on give us the Lord of the Rings trilogy, as well as the 2005 version of King Kong. Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, so yeah. Personally, my favorite horror movie that I've ever seen, I actually have the distinct honor, in my opinion, it's an honor, but I had the distinct honor of having a two movie combo pack, where one was Misery from 1991 or 92, and the other was Silence of the Lambs. I don't know if I watched them both that night when I bought that, but I remember watching both those movies, and I love both of them. Even though I feel like, let's see here, you remember heard of because of Dead Meat, but never actually seen it myself. But I do know they're coming out with a game for it. I do know they're coming out with a game based on the Killer Clowns movie. Yeah, I do know that. As a matter of fact, I don't know how I feel about that movie, if I'd want to watch it, though. Because I know it's a classic in PG-13 rated horror movies. But yeah, if I had to pick my favorite horror movie of all time, I would probably say, outside the obvious answer of Silence of the Lambs, because, let's be honest here, it is one of the best horror movies ever made. Even though it's like more of a suspense movie, like a horror suspense movie, if I'm being honest. I would probably say my favorite, like, if it was a modern day horror movie, I would say Us by Jordan Peele, because I love that movie. I even watched that movie in the theater, not knowing a damn thing about it. I didn't even know it was directed by Jordan Peele, who I know did make it's cheesy, but so cheesy that it's good, kind of like a grilled cheese sandwich. Oh yes, this so cheesy. It's yeah, those cheesy horror movies. But yeah, I would say Us is one of my favorite horror movies for sure, because it has a really good balance of horror and comedy, in my opinion. To me, the funniest moment in that movie, easy, is when some of the tethered, that's the name, some of the tethered, come out and they kill some of the members of the family, and this woman is the only one alive. and she, and she's trying to hold her throat because she got attacked there. She's like, she tells the Alexa looking thing, the Alexa like thing, call the police. And this just says, okay, playing Fuck the Police. And it plays the Fuck the Police song. It was, I laughed so hard in that moment. I was like, I'm scared that I'm horrified that the family went through that. But that moment made me laugh so much. It was a dark horror, it was a dark comedy moment. And I absolutely loved it. It was one of the funniest horror movie. It was the funniest moments in a horror comedy I have ever seen. It's the funniest thing ever. But I also did like it because it had like this Alfred Hitchcock like ending. Let's see. Oh god, I just remembered another. They repressed him. It was a. Let's see. Do you even want to talk about it? Another movie that legit gave me PTSD for a while. It was repressed memory from in the back of my mind. Do I even want to know what that movie is? Because if it's a movie, it may be a movie I know. It may not be a movie I know. It just depends. But I swear to God, if it's what I think it is. Cujo. Oh, yeah. I've seen Cujo. I have. You know what my personal favorite Stephen King horror movie? I would probably say Carrie. And I remember watching Bravo's 100 Scariest Movie Moments, and there's this one, like, they talk about that moment. They talk about the moment with the ending of the movie, but they also talk about the infamous prom scene, where after they drop this bucket of pig's blood or something. After they drop like this bucket of pig's blood or something on Carrie, she just goes off on these people. Using her, because of what her mother said to her earlier, she imagines that they're laughing at her instead of thinking of the fact that they're actually very concerned for her because they can't believe what they just seen. She goes off on these people. One of the people, when they were talking about this movie, Bravo Scares, even says, Carrie lets the bitches have it. And I'm like, damn straight. She lets everybody have it. She don't care anymore. She was fed up with all that, man. She was fed up with the bullshit she had to endure throughout that whole movie. She was done with everything. Yeah, but yeah, Cujo, I could definitely, especially if you're a dog lover, it's something that you don't want to watch because, well, it's a dog that was afflicted because a fucking bat decided to bite him, and so now he has rabies. You know, it's really a sad movie. It's a horror movie, but it's a sad horror movie because you're watching this dog transform from this normal dog, this normal Saint Bernard, to there's some legitimately creepy shit. Besides the Wyatt family. Oh, dude, you know what? You just made me think of something that I remember from back in the day. I remember watching, this is like many years ago, I made a video from like 12 years ago, where I was watching a video that said kind of a possibly disgusting WWE moment. And this was a moment on SmackDown in 2006. During the build-up to the match between JBL and the Boogeyman at Royal Rumble for that year, there's a moment where JBL and Jillian Hall appear on Piper's Pit. And Jillian has this fucking thing on the side of her face. And the Boogeyman at some point comes out and does his, Boogeyman stuff. and he looks and he notices the thing on Jillian's face. And to put it simply, he basically looks like he is having the time of his life as he is going at this fucking thing on her face. Like dude, it stuck with me for my whole life. I wasn't even a wrestling fan back then, but I watched it on YouTube, and it stuck with me for so long. To this day, it is a creep. It's one of the craziest. One of the most. I'm just like, how the fuck did Vince McMahon get this past the people who were airing SmackDown into that? How did he get this past them? It's one of those moments where you wonder how this got past the show's censors. I mean, let's not. I mean, if you want another thing that made me think of that, let's talk about. Let's just say Katie Vick, and that's all I'm gonna go with on that one, because that was fucking disgusting. And it's regarded as one of the worst storylines in WWE history ever. If you want to know what that storyline's all about, look it up at your own risk. Because it is just, disturbing. And I'll be honest, I'm kind of surprised I'm able to drink my tea after I'm talking about all that. I'm being honest. Ah, yes. So, yeah. So the way I see this, yeah, so the way I see it, WWE has its scary moments. Particularly with Kane. I would say definitely with Kane. Because Kane's done some crazy stuff during his time as a wrestler. Particularly when it's about things that you don't see. For me, the scariest moment in WWE is this one moment in 2008 when Kane would carry this bag. You're wondering, did you see the Wyatt Six debut? Yes, I did. I'd seen that video earlier. And yes, they did make a reference to Wade Barrett. Not Wade Barrett, what the fuck? Bray Wyatt. Forrest, get your names right. Why? I don't even know where the name of Wade Barrett came from that. They were talking about Bray Wyatt. And I was thinking, like, he laid some hard stuff on that one, especially saying nobody will understand what I went through. And I'm like, yeah, it's true. Because with us fans, we lost a wrestler who we were hoping and praying would make a comeback in the ring in some way, shape, or form. The people that knew him, the people who were friends with him, lost a good friend, and the Rotunda family lost a family member, and anybody that was related to him in a marital sense lost a good family member as well. I still remember that like it was yesterday, and I'm still shocked that he passed away at that young an age. Yeah, right. Yeah. I did watch some of the highlights from Raw earlier. And let's just say I'm honestly interested in the how the Drew McIntyre CM Punk storyline is going to progress. What was the other one? The whole thing between Dominic and Liv Morgan. Because let's be honest here, she's trying to have him replace her, like live Rhea Ripley with her. What else was there that I was interested in that I'm being interested in now? Definitely, like I said, definitely CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre. I'm definitely interested in that storyline. I'm basically on you know every time I'm still when it comes to Dominic, I'm just like, dude is still complaining about his dad. When the dude is complaining about his dad still. And I still remember the first time he was doing that whole segment with his dad after he did his heel turn. I'm still laughing at that because it made him sound like a total Ken. Like a Ken slash Karen slash Kyle, whatever. It made him sound like a self-entitled little brat. Because he was basically saying, well, excuse me, well, I wanted this, but you got me that. And I'm like, dude, you have no idea. Like, really, that was supposed to. Dude, that did not make him look good. That just made him look like a self-entitled little brat. Really. I still think about that to this day, and you know the thing is, I actually was thinking just now, like not just now, but earlier. If you notice, Dominic is slowly but surely looking more and more like Eddie Guerrero, like when Eddie Guerrero from like the 2000s, because Eddie did have the long hair back then. He didn't have the short hair that he would have later in the latter half of in the latter half of his WWE career in 2003 to his passing in 2005. He had that like mullet look or something like that, and I'm thinking like, yeah, Dominic is trying to be like the modern day Eddie Guerrero. The only difference is, even at times when the fans could not stand Eddie Guerrero, they let him speak. But Dominic, they don't want to hear a fucking word. They really don't want to hear a fucking word from this man. They will boo him to the end. Because somehow this man, all it took was for him to turn on his old man, and everybody has been booing him profusely since then. Like, they will not give him a chance to speak at all. And I'm like, how the hell? Like, you've had people like Vince McMahon. You've had people like Vince McMahon. You had people like Eric Bischoff. You had people like Vicky Guerrero. You had Edge. You had Triple H. You had all these different types of heels. The crowd booed them, but they still let them speak say their promo. With Dominic, they don't want to hear a word from him. It's like, how could he have pissed them off? How is it he could have pissed off so many people to get them to boo him so much that he cannot get a single word, let alone a single syllable in, without the people boo. It's crazy. But to me, he's supposed to be a heel, and the crowd is booing him profusely. He's doing an amazing job. With that regard, when you think about it, he's really doing a hell of a job with that, because the crowd hate him so much. They don't want to hear him at all. Like, they'll listen to JD, Damian, or Finn Balor, but Dominic, they don't want to hear a peep from him at all. Which is so funny to me. It's just so funny to me, honestly. Oh man. Alright. Well, I think it's time we go ahead and end this already. But we're gonna go ahead and do something very quickly here. Let's see here. They should honestly end the storyline by having Judgment Day turn on Dominic. where he saves him when Dom turns face after he realizes his dad is still willing to put his neck out to save him. Well, I mean, yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I could kind of see that, but how would see the problem? Mm, I think that might be an interesting idea, but with how much the crowd hates him right now, like legitimate hate him right now, I don't know if that would work. Like, they would have to do it in such a way where Dominic is put in that position where he's forced to, where he has to choose. Do I save my fellow Judgment Day brother, or do I save my father? Because honestly, if I'm being honest here, the only reason why Dominic joined the Judgment Day was because Rhea Ripley was in it. Dom would have to hold on a losing streak. That would piss off the rest of it. Yeah. I mean, by that logic, I'm thinking of the Bloodline with that one, though, now. Because, if you remember, after Roman Reigns dropped the belt, finally, to Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 40, Solo Sikoa, who lost, up to that point, had lost every single match he was in ever since he defeated John Cena. He was it's said that he was allowed to be the leader of the Bloodline. So he betrays Jey Uso, and he introduces another member, and now he's got like 3 of them. And so many people are basically saying, well, if Roman Reigns comes back, he could probably turn face, and basically make it to where the Bloodline that he created is basically would be like he would come back, but the Bloodline would be following Solo Sikoa over following Roman Reigns, and that could turn him into a fan favorite. The only thing is, where the hell is Jimmy right now? Is he injured or something? Because I don't think we've seen Jimmy ever since that attack happened. Because we've been seeing a lot of Jay, but where the fuck is Jimmy? But I'm thinking, like, wouldn't it be interesting if we had a match where Roman Reigns comes back and he tries to be the leader of the Judgment, or not the Judgment Day, the Bloodline, but the Bloodline want to follow Solo Sikoa, and so Roman Reigns decides, well, if you're going to do that, I'm going to bring my own Bloodline, and it's going to be like a family civil war deal going on here, where it'd be like Roman Reigns, and I heard Jimmy quit WWE, no idea if it's true. We'll have to look that up, but I'm not sure. I'll have to look that up later. But yeah, like have like a Bloodline civil war where it's Roman Reigns versus, it's like Solo Sikoa and his 3 members versus Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, The Rock, and maybe probably Jimmy if he's still in the company. Like, just have all 4, like, put them in a 4-on-4 War Games match for the ultimate, what's the word I'm looking for? For the ultimate bragging rights of who is the superior Bloodline group out of them. So it'd sort of be like the NWO, where they split up into NWO Hollywood and NWO Wolfpack. But I wouldn't be surprised if they were to go that route, but then brought them back together. But then that'd be like a bit of a super stable, because that's 8 people. And if you know how WWE works with super stables, it's probably not going to end well. I mean, think about it. The last super stable that I can recall they ever had was the last super stable I can recall they had was the Nexus. And we all know how that went. Well, not everybody, but anybody that was around to see them knows how that went. The corporate ministry, there were way too many people on that one. That one almost was on the verge of taking a page out of the NWO's playbook because they had that whole thing going on there. I just said the Nexus. I literally just said the Nexus, and he says the Nexus. I just said that. Two minds think alike. I was immediately thinking of the Nexus because they are the most recent one of the super stables to just be hit with the short end of the stick. Yeah, it's just like, yeah, they had their wins, but after SummerSlam, yeah, it didn't really work. Oh, there was also the Authority. When it's mainly Triple H and Stephanie McMahon and Seth Rollins and just some... I don't think so. Because, yeah, they did have that storyline with John Cena versus the Authority at Survivor Series. And then, they had that whole thing. And they had a few random members, but also a few of them that was there. Because originally it was like Triple H, Stephanie McMahon. Originally, you had Batista, but then he would quit the company, and he was basically replaced with, it was like you originally had Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, Randy Orton, and Batista. Then Batista left the company, and he was replaced by, Randy Orton. And then in a move, I don't know why, but in a certain move they had the Big Show join in. That's like 5 people. I would still call that a group, because to me a super stable is something that's like a lot. 5 is a good number of people, but I don't think it's too much to call them a stable like that. Yeah, Seth Rollins. Yes, Seth Rollins. I love that. Yes, the man who turned on his brothers and ultimately would get payback for what he did at WrestleMania 40. Because even Michael Cole remembered back to that moment. As when Roman Reigns hit him in the back of the steel chair, even Michael Cole was like, payback! And I'm like, yeah, I can't fault him for that one. That was payback for 2014. That was payback for 10 years ago. And I'm surprised they remembered that enough to utilize it. Yeah. Alright. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and hold on. Actually, the show was originally going to be 11. Yeah, I remember that. They initially started out for themselves, then they joined the Authority, and then they booted it. And Kane was part of the Authority as well, as corporate Kane. The worst variation of Kane ever. Kane should not have been in the Authority. He should have stuck to being the scary wrestler ever. Because the moment he dropped the scary demon gimmick and went corporate, it just killed off any semblance of the... Even when they brought back the mask for a few of his matches, it still killed off I just didn't like it at all. Like, if they were gonna do that, they easily could have picked somebody that would have more fit that corporate gimmick. Yeah, it's just terrible. I just don't think Kane was a good pick for that one. Maybe because he was supposed to be a demon, but whatever. Alright, well, it is. What time is it right now? It is almost 5:30. I'm gonna go ahead and go to bed. I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream here. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have a good rest of your night. I'll see you guys later today. I don't know what I'll be doing, but I'll be doing something. So, with that all being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day, night, whatever part of the day you're on. Have a good one. And until next time, this is Forrest Walpole signing off.